Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Comedy Calendar podcast. I'm Manny Garavito, your host, and it's good to be here once again. I know it's been a while since I updated any followers of anything Comedy Calendar related, but let me just say this. I haven't forgotten about you. Comedy Calendar, in case you guys don't know, is a project that I started when I decided to go from Miami to nationwide comedy show promotions. Just to give you a little background about myself, I run MiamiComedy.com, and I'm also a big fan of stand-up comedy. I even do it myself. I'm more of a fan than I am a performer these days. However, just because the quarantine has affected live comedy shows, unfortunately, I'm not developing Comedy Calendar at the moment, but I do have a lot of plans for making it one of the best comedy sites that you've ever visited. So in the future, if you ever feel like, when we start going out, when things were normal, when we started going out to events, if you ever feel like you'd like to go to a comedy show, you can simply go to comedycalendar.com and you can put in your city on the search bar. And lo and behold, you'll have some shows happening in your area. And these will be shows in theaters and comedy clubs, even local bar shows or lounges. I also wanted to point out that this particular show is a very special one. And it's the main reason why I decided to come back and do a follow-up episode on this podcast. It's sponsored by Helium Presents. Now, at the time of the recording of this podcast, we're currently in quarantine. There's a lot of lockdowns going on. There's a lot of prevention of people going outside. And so us comedians were getting very creative to continue our artistic endeavors. And what we're doing we're doing live virtual shows, whether it's podcasting through Zoom or on Instagram Live, like how I'm doing at miamicomedy.com, or the way that Helium Presents is doing it. It's quite creative. It's called the Coast to Coast Roast. And the Coast to Coast Roast is a show where they go across the nation and they get a couple of comedians to represent their cities, and then they roast another competing duo of comedians on their respective cities. And it becomes this big back and forth about where you're from and how you're roasting and insulting each other from where you're from. I saw last night's show, and I gotta admit, they're doing a fantastic job. So a big thank you to Helium Presents for allowing this special podcast to make a resurrection during this time, especially. I mean, I would have never really guessed that I would make a comeback when comedy isn't happening as often as it used to. However, we are looking forward to a big comeback in producing shows and helping people promote their shows. And the reason why I'm resurrecting the show during quarantine, and the reason why Helium Presents is sponsoring this, is because we have a very special interview with the one, the only Mark Normand. So I'm currently on Zoom right now. I'm waiting for a couple of friends to join us, as well as the guest. And in the meantime, I just like to go ahead and reiterate what Comedy Calendar was and will be once we start developing the site again. So one thing that I've realized is that an events calendar doesn't exist for comedy shows. And I told myself, it would be a great idea if somebody were to organize the events that allows, quick and easy access to something happening, and maybe even convenient, where like your schedule is affecting your comedy show attendance, right? So sometimes, you're busy on a Saturday, but you want to go out on a Tuesday. You have to go online and you have to research and you see who's performing, what time, is there a 2-drink minimum, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of factors involved when you start researching, where can I go out for some laughs? And so the idea came to me, and, the name as well was, fortunately available. comedycalendar.com. I saw it was available, and it was like $1,800 to like buy it off this guy that was squatting it. And I'm like, you know what? I want to go ahead and buy it, right? And then I went over to some developers after I got the URL, and there was a lot of back and forth, by the way. The guy that was squatting it was holding on to that site for about 6 months, and we were doing like back and forth negotiating. And, in the beginning it was at 1,800 and he thought he can get it for a lot more. And then after like 6 months later, he was like, okay, yeah, no one's buying it. And yeah. So once I bought comedycalendar.com, I then started realizing that, not only is the name good, but the idea can really be good if I get some really good developers on board. So I went to a networking event. I found a couple of developers from Argentina. And what ended up happening is, when I paid them a large sum of money, the website can only do so much as a function. Okay, we got the search function handled. The shows are being organized from the respective cities and the time. The basics are there. However, in order to grow it to the next level, there's got to be a little more organization, a little more functions. maybe a little more convenience on the consumer side, to go in and use it. There's a lot of factors involved in making Comedy Calendar go to the next level. And so what I decided to do is to just develop it myself. And let me give you guys some advice for anybody out there, not only if you're a comedy fan, but if you're into like developing an app or putting an idea on the website, here's a rule of thumb. Never hire anybody to do something you don't understand, okay? Because they'll try their hardest to sell you the service. And then once they have you sold and then you start working, you then start realizing that in order for you to do the next update, you have to pay more and more and more and more. So it ends up being a subscription rather than an investment. And here's where I messed up, because even though I build websites, I know my way around WordPress fairly well, but I don't know how to code, like all this Python stuff and all this, CSS and C++ and all that. I don't understand it. All right, so enough jargon about the Comedy Calendar project. I got some friends tuning in. Immacula, which is one of the regular attendees of our Miami Comedy Podcast. How are you, Immacula? And all the way from Miami, my hometown, we've got a local comedian, Oriel. What's up, guys? How are you?
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi.
Great. Thanks. Good to see you. What's up, Mark?
Oh, hey, what's shaking?
The actual guest is here, guys. Mark Norman. Round of applause, guys, for Mark Norman. Yay! What's up, Mark?
Hey, hey, how many people we got here?
We got 2 and yourself.
All right, 3's a crowd.
Yep. Hey, man, great job on the Coast to Coast roast last night. I think Helium Presents is doing a great job putting this show together. What do you think of this whole virtual thing happening in the comedy world?
Oh, it's brutal. We all hate it, let's be honest. Comics were already depressed before, and now this is even sadder than whatever gig we get. It sucks, but we're making the most of it. Comics were like sewer rats. We find a way in. We always keep working until we make a buck or figure it out or get a giggle from somebody. So, yeah.
Well, the way you and Joe List handled it, it was quite impressive. I wasn't expecting so much energy on a Zoom call. I don't know if you've seen some of these shows that are happening on Zoom for stand-up comedy. It's just not the same without the energy of a live crowd.
Of course. I've done a few. It's soul crushing, and we're just, I'm drinking during these coast to coast roasts. Joe's gay, so we're just both trying to bring the heat. And also during the whole thing, we got text saying, "Hey, be more energetic." So.
Oh yeah, the producer send you text throughout.
Yeah, it's just tough because the whole thing takes 17 hours, and you're just sitting in an office chair, with no pants on, trying to be livelier.
Okay. All right. So I also saw, Mark, that you've got a special coming out on YouTube, man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, May 12th, out to lunch. Nobody would buy it, so we're putting it out for free on YouTube, where literally anyone can put content.
Well, what was your first attempt at selling it? I didn't see any promos for you selling it at all.
Well, I went to their office, and you don't try to sell it publicly. You sell it to the you email the agents and the bookers and all that. So it all happened behind closed doors, and it was all negative.
So because of the content or because of your name, Mark?
I think the name or the lack thereof, the no juice in the business, stuff like that didn't help.
Give us a run through of what it's like to sell a special.
Well, I never did, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay. All right. Well, what can we expect? What are you going to touch upon on your new special?
I touched on everything. You name it. Gay, black, Jew, ladies, men, trans, anxiety, depression, drinking, sex, animals, school shootings, all the good stuff. The stuff that you laugh about.
Great stuff, man. Yeah, I'd like to publicly say here on the podcast that I think you're one of the fastest emerging comedians. I'll give you a little backstory how I found out about you. I was at a club in New York a while back, and I remember someone said a joke about, it's like, hey, I can't sleep with another dude in the same bed. That's gay. And he's like, well, how about, no, it's something about putting a pillow between you and the other dude. It's like, well, How about you just don't fuck them?
Oh yeah, that's a
That joke
classic.
resonated with me so well that I was like, what was that guy? I completely forgot, who was that guy? And I remember that joke so well. And then I saw it finally, whether on a video clip or on YouTube or on Comedy Central. I'm like, there he is. And I followed you ever since.
Wow. All right. See, it's funny how some jokes will just stick with you like that. So
Yep.
I appreciate that. That's how I feel about Michael Richards' act.
I got some
Joking.
people here that I told about the interview that we were having, and they wanted to ask you some questions as well. So
Please.
right here, I'm going to put on Oriel. He's one of the hardest working comedians I know here in Miami. You may have met him. I don't know if he went to the show that you did over at the Stage 305 at the Magic City Casino. Do you remember that show?
Of course, I'll never forget it. That was a tough one. It was in a warehouse.
I thought it was great, but I'm going to go ahead and
Thanks.
put Oriel on. Oriel, go ahead and ask any question you like to Mark.
Oh, hey. No, Mark,
Hey.
I never saw you at that show, so I still respect you. But
Yeah, if you had seen that show, you wouldn't.
yeah, this is the vibe I got from that. Yeah. What do you think? First of all, I tried joining yesterday for the show to watch Miami because we're from Miami, so I wanted to see how they did. And I joined late, so I missed it. How'd it go?
I think it was good. Miami was good. I think they might have lost. I hate to say, they were pretty coked up, and one guy was, I think, high on weed. But it was good. It was a good battle. We could have used you though.
Well, the one I saw was Toronto versus Dallas, and then the vibe I got was like, I don't think anyone would be better at roasting a city than like you guys, because you guys actually go everywhere and you get to know like who's a piece of shit and who's not. So like, don't you like try to hear like, don't you like hear someone say something about Dallas and be like, what the fuck, you didn't know about these fucking horrible aspect about them? Like, don't you feel like you're chomping at the bit a little bit when you're listening to them try to write jokes, especially since they're like younger comics and they don't go out?
Totally. And I definitely, you can tell they just Googled it and read the Wikipedia. But we try to slide jokes in if the comics aren't really bringing the heat. So, yeah, we try. We made a lot of Kennedy assassination jokes and, whatnot. But, yeah, we also want to keep it moving. So we haven't said too much.
The more Joe would do this, the more like he would grab his chin. His fingers would be slipping trying to grab it. He'd be like, the more you can tell he's cringing a little bit.
I think the chat also has awesome gems in there. If you pay attention to the fast-paced jokes.
That's true. It was too much for me to read because I got to read and host, but every now and then I would glance at a killer zinger.
Yeah, I gotta admit, I think the idea that Helium Presents is doing is awesome. And even when this whole quarantine is over, I think it should continue because the fact that cities are like coming together and doing, they're showing you like how comedy can, I'd say, evolve depending on where you're from is a good way to see. Like when I saw Denver, like I forget the guy's name, but the guy that represented Denver, I'm like, that's exactly how I picture a Denver comic to look.
yeah, Mike Gillespie, I think.
Yeah,
right, big pothead.
Yeah, he totally looked like a pothead. Somebody said that his eyes look like they're too far apart and too close at the same time.
That's great.
I'm gonna put on here Helen. Helen is also a good friend of mine. She's a fan of yours, and as soon as I told her I was interviewing you, she was in disbelief. Helen, go ahead, take it away.
Hi, Mark. So I'm actually a performer too, but not a comedian. And I was curious to know, what would you say is the most rewarding thing about being on stage and doing stand-up as a comedian? And also, what are the biggest challenges that you faced?
Wow. Hey, boy, that's a real interview question there. What was the biggest? What was the first part? Sorry, it was a two-parter.
Oh, yeah. What's the most rewarding thing to you about being on stage as a comedian? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the most rewarding part for me is just I mean, so much of it is rewarding, but just the fact you get to have a thought and then put it together on stage and have people laugh at it. You came up with this in your own head, and now you're getting paid to do it. It's pretty crazy, and just figuring. My whole life, people have been telling me, "Hey, you're a weirdo. Shut up. What are you talking about?" And then you kind of get a little revenge, going, "Hey, I thought of this. You told me to shut up, and these people love it. So screw you."
Yeah,
so that part's
awesome.
kind of fun.
That's the best part.
And just like being able to go all over America or the world even, and make people laugh with the same material. It kind of shows we're all together, we're all one, we're all people and human. All we do all day long is separate each other. You're right, you're left, you're black, you're white, you're gay, you're fat, Jew, but we're all the same, and that's what's great about comedy. And comedy, I was talking about this with my lady. We were talking how it's you don't need an invention like the guitar or the automobile. People love these things, but they had to be invented. Comedy is just in us. It's just part of being a human. So that's kind of cool that that's our job. And the most challenging part is, I guess, bombing sucks, but that's also what makes it great, because you gotta have the good with the bad. You know, it makes it hard. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And also, travel sucks, and the industry is clueless. So all those things suck, but it's still a great gig. Best job in the world. Good question.
Totally agree with you on that. You know, I do marketing and promotion on my end, and I kind of see how the industry works. And yeah, it does seem like they're a bit clueless, especially like catching up with the times. I know exactly where you're coming from. Mark, I know you're tight on schedule, so one last question on my end. Can you explain to me your writing process?
Yeah. You guys are doing all the textbook questions here. How'd you become a comedian? Were you molested? No, it's pretty straightforward. I'm not that good of a comic, so I have an idea, I have a thought. I jot that down in like a bullet point. Then I take that back to my apartment and I just walk around and talk about it for like an hour. And then if it sounds funny, I'll write that down. Then I'll bring that to a comedy club. It'll bomb. I'll rewrite, bring it back to a comedy club. It might get a titter, and then I go from there. And it's a trial and error process. It takes weeks, but you know, where are we going? So we got the time.
And also, Immaculate says, "What are your biggest obstacles?"
Well, my own brain, not being funnier, drinking, and time is, the clock keeps ticking. So also social media sucks, and annoying people suck, and hecklers, a lot of obstacles. Drug abuse.
Mark, I gotta admit, man, I think you're doing great. I mean, you being self-deprecating and all doesn't sound like you believe it, but I think that you're on a roll, man. Your material's on point. You're very inspiring for us comics, and we wish you the best on your special, and we'll definitely be tuning in.
Hey, I appreciate that, and great mustache. I'd love to sit on it. All right,
see you,
thanks,
Mark.
man. Have a good one. Comedy.
Okay, man. Take care.
Take it easy. Praise Allah. Choose.
All right, everybody. That was Mark Norman for the Comedy Calendar podcast. I know it's been 3 months since I've updated, but it's good to be back here, especially with some friends that are also comedy fans. I want to thank you guys also for tuning in, and hopefully I'm able to resurrect this project, guys.
Thanks, bro.
All right. See you guys. Have a good one. Thank you very much for watching this video from Comedy Calendar. If you enjoyed the video, do give us a like, leave us a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, if you'd like to see some of the best stand-up comedy shows in your area, visit comedycalendar.com so you can laugh every day.